Okay? Arithmetic sequence. Each term is formed by the preceding term by adding something. Don't want to subtract, you want to add. If it goes down, you're adding a negative number. Okay? We always want to add, not subtract. Consider this sequence. And again, if we just look at two numbers, you haven't got a clue if that's arithmetic, geometric, other, or no sequence. You need a pattern forming. You need at least three things. Because I could multiply something by 7 to get me 10, right? Like 10 sevenths. But that's not what's going on here. Because now if I multiply this by 10 sevenths, I don't get 13. This is definitely arithmetic. What am I adding each time? And if we don't see it, what are we going to do? We're going to take two of these and we're going to subtract one from the other, okay? And we're going to get the same thing. Because they're not always going to be clear, like that one. Each term is determined by adding 3 to the previous term. What's T2 minus T1? 3. What's T3 minus T2? 3. 3, okay? Anywhere in this whole sequence. Is this finite or is it an infinite series? Can't see because I sit way back there. There's dots there. That means it keeps going, okay? If there was no dots there, it stopped. It terminated. It's finite, not infinite. Infinite is how we say that, right? Okay? There is a common difference. Common difference. We add something to it. This is saying the same thing. Okay? The common difference is 3. That's what we're adding to each term to get the next one. But what did we do here? There's a common difference between a term and its previous term. Okay? It's saying the same thing. Finding the common difference. Okay, we just kind of did this. Take one, subtract its previous term. I don't care what number n is. All that says is, I don't know, t 64 minus t. What's 64 minus 1? The previous term. Okay? Doesn't matter what n is. That's what this says. You're subtracting 1 from its previous, okay, to get the common difference. Consider that. Some people can see the common difference pretty easily. What is it? Minus 3. If you can't, take one of the numbers, subtract the previous one. There's the common difference. Okay? Okay, so determine which are arithmetic. Don't assume they all are. Then find the common difference. Is this arithmetic? Is there a common difference? Yeah, we started this with, well, what do I add to this to get that? Looks like 2. But might be multiply by 2. I don't know yet. That's not multiply by 2. Must be arithmetic. I'm adding 2, adding 2. Okay? If you don't see what it is, then you do that. Okay? And we want to say the common difference, it's got a symbol. It's called D. Let's start now. D is 2. Okay? And it is arithmetic. How about this guy? A little tougher to see. Is there something I can add to a half to give me a quarter? Okay? Possibly. But does it continue? Or do we see something else going on here? Just, it looks kind of geometric, doesn't it? We're not multiplying by 2. We're multiplying by a half. Now everybody loves fractions. How could I know for sure? Because if I go a quarter minus a half and I get something, it's not going to be the same as 1/16 minus 1/8. Okay? I'm going to save you the fractions, but I hope we see that. This is not arithmetic. Okay? It's geometric. What am I multiplying each time? 1/2. Okay? A half times a half is a quarter, times a half is an eighth, times a half is a 16th. What's a quarter an eighth divided by the previous? Okay, everybody loves doing this. 1/8 divided by a quarter is the same as 1/8 times, flip it around, okay? That's 4/8. It's a half. But I wasn't asked to do that. All I need to know is it arithmetic? It's not, okay? But what I said earlier still applies. Okay, if you don't see what it is, divide it by the previous one. Is this arithmetic? What do I add to this to get that? If you don't see it, you subtract the previous term. Minus minus is a plus. What's -4 plus 10? 6. Let's see if it works. -10 plus 6. -4. -4 plus 6, is that 2? Is 2 plus 6 8? Okay, it works. All right, check it. All right. What can I add to 4 to get 8? 4. But if I add 4 again, I don't get 12, I get 16. Does that mean this is arithmetic or not? It's not. It's geometric by the looks of it. Okay? All right. We already said this. The first term in any sequence, not just arithmetic, is term 1. We have a new symbol for term 1. Because why would we just give you one option? Let's confuse you and give you 2 options. We're going to call it A also, okay? Sorry, I didn't make the rules. That's what I'm given, okay? Every formula in the back, they have some with T1, they have some with A. I don't care which one you want to use, okay? Your choice. But pick one and stick with it. Common difference is D, okay? Because we don't want to write common difference every time. I don't want common difference in my formula. I just want one variable. That variable is D. Okay? State the values of A and D. What's A? Jake? A stands for? First term. Quick learner. What's the first term in the sequence? Trick question. It's the first one. Okay? What is the common difference? Now, think logic. They're telling you there is a common difference. So I know these are arithmetic. Okay? I don't need to check. It's telling me they are. What is D? What do I add to -8 to get 2? That's too hard to figure out. Let's take 2 and subtract the previous number. That's a lot less brain work, right? Does it work? What's 2 plus 10? 12. What's 12 plus 10? 22. Okay? Check it. What's A here, Tanner? What's the common difference? I think we can see this one pretty easy, right? What do I add to that to get this? -5. Again, if we don't see that, doesn't matter which ones you take, just subtract one from the previous. Okay? Investigation. We're going to derive our formula. We don't have to. I could just tell you what it is. You don't even need to memorize it because you guys are allowed your formula sheet. But let's have some fun time. What's the first term? T1. 2. What's T2? 12. Right? 22, 32, 42. What's A? What does A stand for again? The first term. What is the common difference here? 10. Okay, let's write it a different way. The first term is 2. The second term, I don't want to write 12. I start with my first one, and I add one common difference. That gives me 12. Right? That's what we were doing in our head, wasn't it? Okay? Let's write it a different way. The first term is A, and I'm adding one common difference. Okay? The third term. I have the first term, and I'm adding 10 twice to get the third term. Right? So that's the same as the first term and two differences. Okay? So the fourth term, do we see a pattern here? What's this number going to be? 1, 2, 3 common differences. That's 32. Okay, there it is, right? Also, we can say that's the first one and 1, 2, 3 common differences. Okay? Like I said, if you follow this, great. It's a better, fuller understanding of what's going on. And if you don't, you just need to know how to work the formula. Okay? T5, I start with the first one. I have 4 common differences, and I get 42. That's like saying the first term and 4 common differences. And then we're going to skip a whole bunch. What if I want the 30th term? Well, look at the pattern. I have the first one. What's this number going to be? Yeah, good. It's just one less than this one, isn't it? If that's 4, this is a 3, right? If that's a 5, that's a 4. If that's a 30, this is 29 differences, and that's 292. In formula form, I have the first one and 29 differences. This is for any value of n. I don't care what it is. How do I write this in this form? The first one and what's 1 less than 30? 29. What's 1 less than n? There's 1 less than n. Times the common difference here was 10. Okay, so I have a plus n minus 1 times d. That's it. That's the formula. All right, this is on your formula sheet. I don't care which one you use. I prefer A myself, but what's the difference here between this one and that one? The only difference is, what's the first term? T1 or A, okay? This is the same. If you look on your formula page, they got both of them. You don't have to know both of them. You just need to know one of them because it's the same formula. What does this help us do? If I tell you the common difference and the first term and how many terms there are, 30 terms, 60 terms, we can find the value of that term. Or you can find, if I give you the value of the term, it's a little harder, but we can work back and find out what number that term is. We might even say, hey, I'll give you this, this, and this. You can solve for the first term. Okay? How many variables are in this formula? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? This is like physics. There's a formula. There's 4 unknowns. You have to know 3 of them to solve for the 4th. Okay? It's not always going to be solve for the one that's here. You might be solving for D. You might be solving for N. You might be solving for A, the first term. Okay? Here's what they all are. This is the easy one. A is T1, that's the first term. D, we know what D is, that's the common difference. What do we add to each term to get the next one? These are the confusing ones, okay? This says n's the position of the term in the sequence. Let's write something else here. If this thing is finite, if it terminates, n is the number of terms. Okay? If a question asks you, how many terms does this thing have? We're asking you to find n. Okay? Tn is the general term of the arithmetic sequence, or the value of the nth term. Might be helpful if you remember that. Okay? If you know n, you can find the value of that term, right? Okay? I know there's 4 terms here. I put it in to find T5, the value of the 5th term. That is 42. Okay? The 5th term was 42. That's what this is saying. Okay? All right. Oh, let me go back. This is the formula for the general term. People always forget that. Okay? And like I said, last time we did this first, and by the time you get to the midterm, it just asks you, what's the formula for the general term? Because in your formula sheet, it doesn't say that. All you're given is this. Okay, this is the formula for the general term.
Can it be either one or just both?
Like I said, these are the same. T1 is the first term. A is the first term. These are the same. I don't care which one you like to look at, right? Okay? Determine the formula for the general term of the sequence. What's the formula? Which one do you want to use? I don't care. Here's the formula. A plus n minus 1 times d. If you like T1, fine. Substitute A for T1. Okay, but I'm not going to write both of them every time I do a question. Start with the formula. What do we know? You got to know 3 things to solve for the 4th. Okay? All I'm doing here, though, is just solving for the formula. But do I know a couple of these things? Do I know A? What's A? It's the first term. What's that? Negative 6. Okay? How about D? What do I add to each one of these as they go on? Nobody likes negatives. Look at those. What do I add to 4 to get 9? 5. Is negative 6 plus 5 negative 1? Yeah. Okay? So, like, it doesn't matter which ones you use. Okay? D is 5. Substitute those in here. Tn is negative 6 plus n minus 1 times 5. One other thing we might want to do is maybe rearrange this formula a bit, because would you guys all multiply n minus 1 times d if d were negative, or would you subtract it? Because after looking at your test and the lack of some brackets that people are using, I think if d was negative, some of you guys would subtract it. You wouldn't multiply it. You know what I'm saying? A little example, A times B. Okay? If A is 2 and B is negative 3, what's the answer to this? It's negative 6, isn't it? What happens if you don't use brackets? Is it now negative 1? You see the difference? You have to use brackets, guys. Okay? In our factoring, lots of us didn't. If you don't put brackets here, and that was a negative, don't write this, of course, you guys are going to subtract that, not multiply it. So how can we make that a little nicer on ourselves? Let's put the D out front. Doesn't matter how I multiply these. That way, I think we're less prone to make a mistake, okay? So negative 6 plus 5 times negative 1. That's probably the way we want to do it. Now on your book and your formula sheet, if you want to cross this thing out and write it like that, that's fine. Okay? Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? Okay? So the general formula, Tn is negative 6 plus 5 n minus 1. We're done. That's all we can do. What do we want this thing for? I only have two variables left. If I give you the number of the terms, we can find out the value of that term by plugging it in here. Like if n was 20, I would know the value of the 20th term. Okay? You just work this out. 20 minus 1, 19 times 5, minus 6. Or if I gave you some value like 3012, we should be able to figure out which number in that sequence that value is. Okay? This is called the general term of the sequence. With this master formula, okay, we can figure out either or based on the question. Which brings us to B. Determine the value of the 12th term of the sequence. What are they saying by 12th term? Is that n or is that t to the n? That's n. It's the 12th term. All right? N is 12. What's the value of the 12th term? What is t to the 12? That's what they're asking you to find. Do we see the difference between Tn and n? Okay? The 12th term, that's n. What's the value? Okay, let's go back here and look. The value of the nth term, that's t to the n. Now I know n is 12. I want to know t to the 12. Okay, so t12 is negative 6 plus 5 times 12 minus 1. Okay, this is the easier one to find, right? So negative 6 plus, now do you want to distribute that 5 over the 12 and over the negative 1, or do we want to go 12 minus 1 is 11? Yeah, okay, you see that, but there's still people who would do it this way. This 5 is multiplied by everything in the brackets, but heck, if that's 11, make it 11, right? So that says 55 minus 6 is 49, right? Don't do this, but just to show you that that will still work, 5 times 12 is 60, minus 5, that's 55, take away 6, we get the same thing. You can do it that way, right? But why would you? Okay. Last one, and you got some to practice on your own. Find the number of terms in this sequence. What are we trying to find here? Here's my formula. Tn is a plus, let's write d first. There's 4 variables. I got to know 3 of them. What's A? Yeah. What's D? Everybody see that? I don't. I need to check. Negative 5 minus negative 1 is negative 4. You're right. Are we trying to find n or t to the n? Dannon? I don't believe him. Let's go back up. And see a number of terms here anywhere? Oh, there it is. N's the number of terms. I want to find n in this thing. It's buried in the center of this formula. But that's okay. I'm in Math 11. I know how to do this. Okay? I need to know that. Where is it? Do I know the value of the nth term? Does this sequence keep going, or does it terminate? What's the last value? I want to know how many terms this is. This is the last term. That's the nth term. I know you're going, what? There's no other way to say it. That's the nth term. If I know that there was 28 terms here, that's T28, isn't it? That's the last term. Okay, it's the nth term. I don't know what n is yet. That's what I'm trying to find. So that's the only thing I can call it. Once I know what n is, okay, then I'll put that there. I'm trying to find n. I have to know everything else. I can't give you an equation with two variables to solve, unless I give you another equation. Two equations, two variables, that's fine. I only have one equation here, okay? So, substitution. T to the n equals a plus d times n minus 1. One equation, one variable, I can solve this. I hope. Okay? Everybody clear on how we got here? Okay. What do I do now? I need to solve this for n. Let's get rid of the 3. How do I do that? It's plus 3, so I minus it to both sides. Negative 120 is negative 4 n minus 1. Okay? Getting closer. I could get rid of those brackets and distribute that negative 4, but I could also get rid of it right now. How do I get rid of it? Yeah. This whole thing is times negative 4. Why don't I just divide it away? How many times does 4 go into 120? 30? Negative divided by a negative is a positive. There's the common sense way. What do I have to take away from n to get 30? Or, here's the algebraic way. I don't think I said that right. Add 1 to both sides, get rid of it, n's 31, right? There's 31 terms in this sequence. Okay? That's the answer to the question. I know, it doesn't ask me this, but I know the 31st term is negative 117. Okay? It's not asking me this, but I want to go back because this nth term thing screws people up. Okay? If you're totally lost, let's say you draw a complete blank, it's the midterm. Is there anybody saying that you can't do this for 20 minutes to get that number? No. Is that how we want to do them? No. Because are you going to have enough time to do all the questions like that? No. But if you're really stuck, yeah, you could do this, the grade 7 method, okay, before knowing the formula. It's possible, okay? 1 to 7. Guys have to finish this, okay? You'll be lost tomorrow if you don't. Tomorrow's part 2 of the same lesson, okay?